So, as the lights turn on this morning, that's exactly what's happening right now. All these lights are coming on. I had a thought. What's up, YouTube? So, what is my thought? All right, so I thought about a few things. I thought about people asking me questions. And a lot of people ask me, well, why don't you put anything in your enclosures? Why are your enclosures so bare? That's so miserable. Well, I'm a minimalist at heart. It may not seem like it because I have so much crap in here, but I'm trying to clean it up. I clean it up as I go, and then it just doesn't work out all the time. So that's on me, but typically I don't like to have a bunch of stuff. Obviously I have a bunch of animals, but that's more so comfort based instead of, owning things. So they make me feel good, I guess. So what is it? All right, so I'm gonna be kind of going around showing you why I don't like having clutter in my enclosures. So before I do that, I have an announcement. A group of us, bearded dragon breeders, just started an organization, I guess you can call it. It's really just a group of people that want to better the community. So we're calling it the Ethical Reptile Breeders Association, ERBA. On Instagram, we are ERBA USA or .USA. We're going to create a website where we kind of share everything we think should be the standards for breeding. So the reason we call it Ethical Reptile Breeders instead of Ethical Reptile or Bearded Dragon Breeders is because we want this to be for everyone to use, not just for people that breed bearded dragons. So eventually we want to incorporate different species. So maybe we'll talk about unethical pairings in ball pythons, hognoses, boas, different types of lizards, monitors, tegus, whatever the case may be, eventually incorporating everything. So while I'm the one that's created this group, I'm not the one that's going to run it forever. Eventually this is going to be taken off my hands probably. So I just kind of wanted it to get started, get together, and figure out what's going on with the community and show off different things. So if this does get big enough to where it's too much for me, that's when I'll start just, hey, somebody else take this. We did a great start, and hopefully, that doesn't ruin it. But, I'm always going to be there in the background. I just won't be the admin, I guess you can say. So that is the announcement. I also have another announcement. I started a superworm farm, so I'll be talking about how to create a superworm farm. So far it's going pretty good. That's essentially where we're at right now. So we have this photo box here. It's I have a mess. I got snake sheds. I have fly traps. I mean, it's kind of a mess in here right now. Okay, people. So I have the photo box ready. We're going to show off some dragons as I talk about why I don't like clutter in my tank. So, you know what? I'm cleaning today. Obviously, that's why I have gloves on. So just watch me clean as I talk, I guess. Not a big deal. You guys probably won't care. So there you go. Let's do it. All right, so first things first, everything is messy. Today's cleaning day. I've already said that. Have my trash can ready. I have so much stuff on the floor. Let's do this. All right, so now another thing people ask is, why do you have totes for your babies? Well, the babies, I don't know if you can see them that well. So they're kept one to a tote if they are big enough to, cause some damage, which they can cause damage pretty much the entire time after they hatch. Then I have some adults over there that are quarantining. They're probably almost done quarantining. I just kind of have left them over there. I'm creating more enclosures. I have room for 40 dragons. 40 dragons? Yeah. And I need more room. I'm probably after I'm done, it'll probably be room for about 50 dragons or so. So another thing people always ask is, why do you keep females together? Not all females go together. I'll say that right now. Not all females, you're probably like, this guy's wearing shorts and a hoodie. Crazy, man, crazy. So not all females go together. Some females are just mean, and some females don't care about each other. So you really got to gauge it based off the female. And that's why you have to have enclosures where you can move a female if she is mean to another female. So that's one thing that I do that I a lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. I've never had any issues. Never had any issues. The biggest issue I've had with cohabiting females is food. Some of them will fight over the food, but typically that's all they do. They don't really lead to eating each other or killing each other or nothing like that. It's just one of them grab the food before the other one, and then the other one's like, yo, what the heck? And then they try to grab it out of their mouth. Now, sometimes that could lead to, like, you know, while they're trying to take it out of their mouth, the other one kind of chomps on their face, but it's never enough to where it's going to cause any damage. Maybe break a scale or two, but it won't be anything where it causes damage. Like, I've been doing this cohabiting females since I had bearded dragons, and the first group of bearded dragons I had was 1 male and 4 females, and all 4 females were in a 4x4x4. It was a huge thing with branches and everything. They never did anything to each other. Same thing here. It's a big enclosure. They never do anything to each other. If they want to separate, they will separate. If they don't want to separate, like these 2 over here, they won't separate. So that happens sometimes where they just hang out all the time together, which is perfectly fine. So what are we doing? We're cleaning. I'm going to start with the top enclosures because it's easier, and then I'll just go down. The bottom ones are harder for me because I have bad knees, people. So to do those down there kills me. All right, so the thing about keeping nothing in the enclosures. So I keep stuff in the enclosures. I keep this for greens. I keep this for bugs. Both of these things were found at Walmart for $1 each. This is their basking platform. Why do I have a basket weave basking platform? And that's because if they do soil it, so if they poop on it or whatever, it's a lot easier to clean this than something like a stone, a rock, a branch, something like that, because all of those things can hold bacteria, and therefore this metal basket won't hold that bacteria because you can just put it in some Dawn dish soap, scrub it out, spray it with some disinfectant, whatever you got to do. Obviously, anytime you use any chemicals or anything in any of your bearded dragon enclosures, make sure that you let it air out, dry out, and even wipe it down with water after the fact, just to make sure everything's gone. So I typically use a disinfectant wipe it all down, have the dragons out of the enclosure in a tub or something like that, drinking water or whatever the case may be. Sometimes I just put them in a dry tub so they can just sit in there. Sometimes I put them in a dry tub with food and they eat while I'm cleaning. So it really just depends on the day because I don't feed every single day. And today is Sunday. I fed yesterday, so I'm not planning on feeding today, but here we are. All right, where's my ladder? All right, another thing you'll notice is some of these have 2, so all the ones up here are males. All of these smaller enclosures are males. Some of these have 2 little labels. That's because they were pairing with females. And they're only in here for about 4 days, and then I separate. So the females are now, as I'm cleaning, they're gonna come out of the enclosures with the males and go into their own enclosures. So let's do this. My guy, how you been? All right, so reason number 2 why I prefer nothing in their tanks is because so reason number 1 was cleaning, make sure things are clean, because if they poop on anything, then it's harder to clean anything that's like a branch or something. The reason number 2 is to make sure they don't injure themselves. So because of the way I set everything up with a hammock, with a hide, with the basking platform, everything, it's very, very unlikely for them to injure themselves in there. That basket, if for some reason it gets toppled over, it's not going to injure them. It's not heavy enough to injure any bearded dragon. Anything else in here can't really move. The hammocks are kind of held by hooks. This is pretty heavy. It's not going anywhere. The bearded dragons can't move it. Shit, I could barely move it myself. So that is essentially where that is. So it's hard for anything to actually injure a bearded dragon in here versus if you had a branch and a bunch of rocks in there or whatever the case may be. If it's not held down by something, if it's not screwed into the bottom or somehow put to where it doesn't move, that I've had it happen before where a branch fell over on a bearded dragon because another bearded dragon had got on top of it, and the bearded dragon that was on top of it toppled the branch, landed on the other one, and it got injured. So I'd rather just not have anything like that happen, and there you go. Now, obviously, you're going to say, well, if you had only one bearded dragon in there, it wouldn't have happened. You're right. But even if I only had one bearded dragon in there, that branch from the dragon being on top of it could have fell over, and the dragon could have still got injured if it didn't jump off or held on too tight or whatever the case may be. It depends on how it fell and all of that stuff. It could have still got injured. So it's not saying just because I had two dragons in there, it was the cause of it. It could have happened with one dragon in there. So, I mean, these baskets, I've seen dragons try to get a bug underneath that gets underneath the basket or whatever, and they just push it up. So I know they can do things by themselves. I don't know. They don't need a companion to make a mess in there. So it's pretty dirty. Like I said, today's cleaning day. So let's get this done. He's probably in there like, dude, you've been talking for 5 minutes now. Get me out of here, man. So, basket. Clean that. Clean that. I always clean their food bowls because they always poop in them. So, yep. So he might not get nothing back in his enclosure today. He's pooped all over everything. So everything in here comes out. There's nothing that is completely stuck in here. As you see, I just got the hide out, no big deal. Now, I like to use newspaper in here. It's easier to clean. Because all I have to do is roll it up and throw it away. So all the poops in here, all the greens that didn't get eaten are in here. Any bugs that died are in there. Now, there's always a little bit of dust left behind. So I don't know where my dustpan is. I think it's in the other building. The other room. I have two rooms, apparently. There used to be another building. So I use this dustpan and this little sweeper, this little broom, handheld broom here, to get all the excess stuff out. It's not much, but it's enough for me to have to sweep it. Now, I used to actually use a vacuum to get all this out. But then my wife was like, why are you using a vacuum? That's nasty. So no vacuum, I'll just sweep it. It was one of those little handheld vacuums, but after a while, the filter got really stinky, and every time I would vacuum with it, you could smell it in the room. So even if the stench was no longer in the room, you could still smell it from the filter on the vacuum. This is a bad idea because I just used this for snake totes and it's dusty. Okay. One thing I should mention is that if you have a lot of dragons, buy a lot of gloves. Because I just literally tore this cleaning. Oh, dude, you're nasty. This guy here ruined his enclosure. See, what happened was this was an empty tank, and I put them in there, never put newspaper down, so that's going to be nasty. So this guy does have a hammock, but last time I cleaned, he pooped on it, so I put it aside for the washer, and I've never washed it. Because in order for me to wash something, first I gotta rinse it back here for my wife not to be mad. Because I don't have another washer and dryer, so I can't just wash and dry it back here. One thing I like to do whenever I'm cleaning enclosures, I only do this once a month because it doesn't mean anything if you do it every day or every week or whatever, how often you clean your enclosures. Now, I clean my enclosures obviously more than once a month, but I don't have to weigh every single time I clean my enclosure. So that's the thing I like to do, is I like to weigh the dragons ever so often to make sure they haven't lost any weight, that if they're young, they're gaining weight, that if they're laying eggs, they're gaining weight. And sometimes they get caked like this where I have to actually put them in water. So this guy, go in there. So that one's caked. I have to actually wash it. And I used to have a bunch of extra dishes, but I have more enclosures now. See, what happens is, oh, well, didn't you have all these enclosures before? Well, whenever I produce my own dragons, I usually keep them in totes for a little while, just to make sure that they're eating good, that their poops are good, and yada, yada, yada. Because what happens is, once you put them in an enclosure, sometimes, not all the times, they decide they no longer feel comfortable, and now they have decided not to eat anymore. So you don't want that to happen. So just to make sure that they're at a good, healthy weight before I move them over, I'll leave them in there for about 3 or 4 months, and then I move them over here. Well, how many dragons did I produce that I kept? Well, not even that, but if I buy a baby, I do the same thing. So I have 3 that are probably almost a year old now, 3 that are probably like 8 months old now. This guy I produced last year. This is actually an empty tank, but somebody that I know needed their bearded dragon to be watched. So I have him up here, and he's been chilling. Now, I typically don't watch people's animals because I don't want anything else to come into my collection, but he had an emergency and he had no one else to take it. So there's that. Where was I? Oh. Gotta get newspaper. All right, y'all. So I have 2 reasons already. Why I use newspaper instead of sand. Impaction, baby. Dragons can get impacted pretty easily from sand. The younger, the more likely it is to happen. Older dragons don't usually have that many problems with sand, but it still can happen. So there is that. Now, I will say that in all of my years, I've only had 1 dragon get impacted with sand. But all it takes is 1. And I never wanted it to happen again. So, there you go. Man, that was just one. Let's see how long it took me. It's because I talk too much. So I know this is not really a necessary step, but I only do this because they like to crawl underneath the newspaper and then tear it up. So I do this so that doesn't happen. So I actually tape it with some painter's tape. Tape the joints together. That way they can't crawl underneath one set of newspapers. Today I'm actually doing a podcast. Not that this is going to matter because y'all ain't going to be watching it when I do the podcast anyways. So it's hard to spend the entire day back here because then I have to spend most of the night back here. All right, where was I? Put this back. Now, I have thermostats in here. And sometimes they yank the probes off the wall. Like this one's good, this one's good. But the one that's over there, he yanked it off the wall. So sometimes I have to put that stuff back. And the best thing about my enclosures, which is great that I make my own enclosures, is how all I have to do is lift the door. There's an extra one of those. Left it over there. All I have to do is lift the doors and they come out. See? And then this dragon's like, what the hell, dude? What just happened to my wall? Don't eat me. She likes to bite fingers. She likes to bite. Here we go. She doesn't really bite per se, but she likes the colorful stuff. So when I wear gloves, she likes to bite the gloves. So I'll be careful with her. And I gotta clean out the greens dish. Put his hammock in the washer. Now he's been a whole week without it. Y'all probably don't even care to watch me clean, to be honest. It's taking me so long to do one enclosure. No, I did one of these not that long ago. Like the first year I was doing YouTube, and it was a lot different back then because I only had 10 enclosures. And now I have just 8 on top. So I have a whole lot more now. All right. And then after I wash it, I still disinfect it because why not? I still have a lot of work in here left, yo. I still gotta put the floor in, gotta build more enclosures. Now, at the beginning of the video, when I was facing the camera this way, you would have seen a wooden stand in the back corner. That is where I'm putting the boa enclosures. That is in the process. I have all of the material outside ready to put together. The only thing I'm missing is, I don't know if I'm doing a heat pad for like dogs and goats and stuff like that outside. So it's like it's farm use essentially, but it's like, I want to say like 18 inches by 18 inches or 2 by 2 or something like that. And it's waterproof and all of that jazz. So I don't know if I'm using one of those or a radiant heat panel. Both of them cost about the same amount of money. So it's not really money related. It's more so, what do I feel more comfortable with? And I've seen a lot of people in their boa enclosures and their big snake enclosures use the heat pads for farm use. So I'm not saying that's a bad idea. I've never thought of it, so now I'll have to figure out if that's the idea for me. And yeah, so that is essentially where I'm at with the boas. Nate, I don't. I'm at a point in my life now. I'm tired. You know, I'm not. Some of these are harder to take out because of the weight from the top enclosure. But I'm just tired, you know, and I don't. I do things a little bit slower now. I'm not old or nothing like that, but like I said, I have bad knees. It doesn't help that I spent my entire childhood running around like a maniac. Fell a billion times, jumped off of buildings and crap. I used to call myself a parkourer. I don't know about it now. I feel like I just did a lot of damage to my core. That's what I did. Oh man, this guy pooped on his hammock. I'm gonna have to, you know what? I'm probably just gonna take all of them off and start fresh. So, what else? All right, so I said cleaning is easier with less things. I have said they can get hurt. I have said that newspaper is better because of impaction. What else do I have to talk about of why I keep my enclosures the way they are? Well, I just think it has a cleaner look. That's really just my opinion though. So you all can do whatever you want. I have seen people make some extravagant enclosures with sand, with everything in there, and it works perfectly fine for them, and that's great. It's just not feasible for me because I have so many enclosures, and I'm not saying that's an excuse to make things less interactive. They still interact with everything in their enclosure. You'd be surprised how often I've seen them go over their hammock, under their hammock, into their hide, on top of their hide, onto the basking platform, tip the basking platform over, and you'd be surprised how many times I've seen them stay in one spot for a good 30 minutes. This one hasn't moved since the camera started rolling. So I'm not sure how long that is, but I know it's been a while. So sometimes dragons just don't move that much, and it's not saying that they don't need everything, but they don't need a lot. They don't need a whole lot. And during the summer, I'm the type of person where I'll take them outside, mostly take a good group of them outside at a time and make them at least get some natural UV and everything. I actually take the snakes and stuff outside too, especially when I have guests over because people like interacting with all the animals. So the kids love the animals, man. It's crazy. When I have a kid's birthday party here, woo-wee, I swear I might as well not even rent a bounce house or nothing and just have them all in the reptile buildings. And they'll be playing with reptiles all day. Yeah, so that one's dry. That one's actually dry because that took so long already. See? Easy. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Throw it in there. Now, another thing is I only do this once a week because honestly doing it, I try to spot clean if I get a chance. Like if I see fresh poop, I'll try to clean it up. But it's not really necessary considering I'm gonna have to take out the newspaper anyways. So if I see poop that's already dry, I'll just leave it. If I see poop that they ran through, I'll leave it. If I see a dragon that looks like they got poop all over themselves, then I put them in water and I'll let them soak for a little bit, try to get some of that off. But most of the time, they don't really run through poop. They do, but not a lot. And I have some that do it just for the hell of it. Like it's like they're like pigs or something, like to just get dirty. If they're shedding, I don't put them in water no matter what. Because bearded dragons are dry shedders, which means they actually prefer to be dry when they shed, believe it or not. And that means that if they prefer to be dry when they shed, that means I'm gonna leave them in a dry environment while they're shedding. I don't want to mess anything up to where they get a stuck shed, where their shed is harder to come off and they got to get stressed out about it. There's a bunch of sand right here. The only time I ever use sand or dirt is for the egg laying process, because they obviously need to dig to get it somewhere. And I try to give them at least 4 or 5 inches of depth. You can give them more the better, honestly, but I've noticed that less than 4 or 5 inches is not enough. So if you only give them like 2 or 3 inches, they will be finding a spot forever and they will be very stressed out. So I try to give them 4 or 5. That way they can honestly figure out a spot where their whole body can sit in while they lay eggs. And honestly, when I say 4 or 5, I mean 4 or 5 all the way around. So they technically have, it'd be one of these totes essentially, with almost all of it filled up with dirt. So if they wanted to, they can dig and then turn and actually make a cave if they wanted to, which some of them do that. And then some of them don't care. They just lay as soon as they get a chance. So as soon as they dig that hole, they'll lay their eggs. Thank y'all for hanging out with me today. I needed it. Now, one thing I typically like to do, so if you guys follow along with me, I usually deworm my dragons or treat for parasites in March and September. We are in March. So therefore, everybody has been dewormed, with the last ones being dewormed like the 30th or the 31st or something like that. So by the time March is over, everybody will have been dewormed or treated for worms. I don't treat for worms because I see worms. I treat for worms because I know that during brumation, because they are not doing as much, they are more susceptible to parasites. Because the way, so bearded dragons, hopefully you guys know this already, bearded dragons have good and bad parasite counts. So parasites themselves aren't bad because they have good parasites. Just like we have good parasites in our intestinal system. Our digestive tract has parasites. The parasites essentially help us break down the food and help us digest. The problem with that is when you have a bad count of parasites or a bad parasite in your intestinal system, which is what happens with bearded dragons and happens with us too. That's why we get like stomach bugs and we get, stuff like that. So what happens with them is they get the same thing happen where they get these parasites, and when that happens, they have diarrhea. But that's not the worst part about it. They have diarrhea, which means they have to stay hydrated, which means they have to stay fed. But they typically don't want to eat if they are at an extreme level of parasites, which they become lethargic, they become ill, and they die, which is not what we want, obviously. How do you prevent that? Well, you treat for parasites as a preventive measure, which is what I do. I treat often, more than most people should, because I do it every twice a year, every 6 months. And because of that, I typically don't have parasites because I'm catching them before brumation. So if they do have any bad levels of parasites, I catch it before brumation. If they don't, then they start off brumation with a good, healthy biome in their intestines. And you want to make sure you have a good, healthy biome because that's how you digest your food correctly. Now, there's actually a documentary on Netflix talking about how important your gut health is. And I think everybody should watch that. I don't know what the name of it is, but it's a very good documentary talking about how the things you eat affect your gut health. So essentially, if you are interested in that, I will go look at it. I forgot the name of it, but The same applies for every type of animal. They all need good gut health. All right, so where was I going with that? Where was I going with that? Oh, so bearded dragons have good parasites. These good parasites help them digest their food. If they stop eating, the parasites still have to eat. So they actually start eating them from the inside out. And that's where the bad parasite counts start coming in. Because normally, good parasites don't do that. But when you have no food intake or nothing like that happening, which is what happens during brumation, if you have an excess of parasites, they have to eat. So they start eating you from the inside out. Or eating the bearded dragon from the inside out. So that's, people actually honestly confuse parasites for brumation during that time of the year as well, which is really bad because you think your bearded dragon is sleeping and one day you go back in there and it's dead because you thought it was parasites. And that's happened to me before. So now I just treat before and I treat after because it's better to treat and not need it than to not treat when you need it. So I'm not saying everybody should do this. I'm just saying that it's worked for me. And that's that. Now, another thing I want to mention before I continue off on cleaning. If you treat for parasites and you see your bearded dragon get tired, it's because when you treat for parasites, you kill all the parasites, not just the bad ones, the good ones too. And the bad thing about that is they need good parasites. So when you are treating for parasites, make sure that it's a clean environment. Make sure that there is no way for them to get sick. So keep other bearded dragons that may have parasites away from that dragon that you just treated for parasites. What else? Make sure they eat. That's the most important thing, is making sure they eat. Because the parasite is going to come back full swing, trying to redistribute around their intestinal tract. And if there's no food being taken in, they will, like I said, try to eat your bearded dragon from the inside out. Which is the last thing you want. I know it sounds pretty gruesome to say eat from the inside out, but that's essentially what they do. They try to take all of the bearded dragon's nutrients for themselves. That's what parasites are. You know, the funny thing is, I know this is probably, I don't know who watches my videos and how old you are, but the funny thing is, kids, when they are in the mom's womb, are considered parasites because they are taking all of the nutrients from the mom for their own benefit. Which is why sometimes mom's bodies, and I missed, woo! I did not play basketball, yay! Why mom's bodies will actually try to get rid of the offspring, to get rid of the seed, because it is a parasite. So they will fight it off to get rid of it throughout the entire pregnancy. So that's typically how a lot of miscarriages happen. Not that I know anything, but I've had 3 kids. I try to get informed on stuff like that. So there you go. All this talking, I've only cleaned 2 enclosures. And now I have to clean a bunch of hammocks. Next. So, I guess with that said, thank you guys for joining me. I don't really have much else I want to talk about. And like I said, I still have to clean all these enclosures. So I am going to stop talking so I can focus on cleaning the enclosures. And therefore, I need to get off the camera. So with that said, thank you all for joining me. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Oh, there goes my dog screaming at the door. So I gotta go let her in. So with that said, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything that I put out in the future. As always, peace.